That's awesome. So glad that you're here today. We are starting a brand new series today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter series, but we thought, man, you know what? Last week was Easter, and we saw so many people give their life to Jesus. So many people come back to faith. So many people really get a kickstart in their faith yet again. And we thought, what better way than to kick off a series talking about how we are Jesus people. We got any Jesus people in the house today? Now, here's what I mean when I say Jesus people, is that we are followers of Christ, and in this series, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we want to help you to understand what it means to follow Jesus, how to follow him well, okay? So if you're ready today for week 1, let me hear you say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Most people, I've noticed anyway, most people do not choose their life. Instead, most people copy someone else's. Have you ever met a bandwagon fan? They're the worst kind of people, Bandwagon fan. In the early 2010s, a perfect bandwagon fan would be someone who doesn't even know how to find Miami on a map, but they became a Miami Heat fan because of LeBron, okay? Hated those people. Any people like that in here? Okay. Another bandwagon fan is the worst, okay, is you live in Knoxville, Tennessee. You are absolutely a bandwagon fan if you are an Alabama fan in Knoxville. Somebody say amen to that. I'm telling you, you need to give your life to the Lord today. I know one of the first bandwagons I jumped on early in my life was my sophomore year of college. My freshman year of college, I did not drink from the well known as coffee, okay? I went through my whole freshman year without caffeine, which is insane, okay? And then sophomore year came around and your boy met caffeine. And I loved caffeine, and she's been good to me, and I've been good to her. And I became addicted to the peer pressure, and I succumbed to the peer pressure, and now I drink 12 cups of coffee every single day. As Annie would say, these are my confessions, okay? Now, when it comes to bandwagon fans, Jesus, 2,000 years ago, in Matthew chapter 7, actually discussed this idea of being a bandwagon fan in verse number 13 of chapter 7. He says this, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few actually find it. See, the reality is that the bandwagon effect is alive and well. It is real, and it influences every single person in the building today. From politics to health choices, from how you raise your kids to what teams you root for, the bandwagon effect is alive and well. Dr. Robert C. described it this way. It'll be on the screen, his quote. Whether the question is about what to do with an empty popcorn box in a movie theater, how fast to drive on a certain stretch of highway, or how to eat the chicken at a dinner party, the actions of those around us will be important in defining our own answer. This mob mentality often keeps us making decisions based on pressure rather than on principle. Come on, when you're at home alone, you eat that chicken like a crazy person. But then when you're at dinner, everyone's using forks and knives, and you decide you've never used a knife on chicken before, but you decide to cut your chicken. The mob mentality has captured our mind. And what it does is it keeps us having one foot in and one foot out. It really, rather than creating our own future, rather than walking in the future and the destiny that God has planned for you, Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 10, walking according to what he wants, oftentimes we just copy somebody else's life. And I would go as far to say that you're not in this room today By happen chance, you're in this room today because I think you probably want to experience the life that Jesus talks about in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. I don't think you'd be here today if you weren't at least seeking spiritually a little bit. The problem is that most people want to do two things at once. One foot in the culture and one foot in the church. One foot in the world and one foot in Christianity. Come on, you know this about yourself. You cannot do two things at once. When is the last time you tried to pat your head and rub your belly? I got 3 kids and lead a church, and the hardest thing in my life is to pat my head and rub my belly. I'm not gonna do it right now because I don't wanna mess up my hair. You know, I got one more service to go. But you can't do two things at once. So is life. You must decide. Somebody say decide. Because if you continue to do two things at once, you'll end up doing nothing to your full ability. You cannot continue to split your attention and expect to get the results you want. I don't know if you've asked this question before, but what happens? What happens when you do two things halfway? For most of us, what happens is frustration, a lack of fulfillment in your life where, come on, you're in the church part way, but you're also in the club part way. Now, you wear the same apple-bottom jeans to both, boots with the fur. Everybody in the club? Y'all don't know all about that. Okay, all right. But when you're in the world, you feel like, man, you know what? I shouldn't drink that much. I shouldn't say that to her. But then when you're at church, you're also disappointed that you're not living out the full life that you feel like you've been promised. So you end up, frustrated in the world and in the church. It's a lack of fulfillment limbo, a frustration fiasco. Maybe you've experience this, where the spiritual things aren't fulfilling you, but neither is the binge drinking or the sports betting. I know none of you are betting on the Masters right now. Like in the moment, it is great. It feels great when you win. It feels great when things are going well, but what happens afterwards? And I'm willing to bet today that most of us, we are in limbo because we are not all in on Jesus. Where we're all in on Jesus on Sunday from 10 to 11:05, but we're not all in on Jesus at work. Where you're all in on Jesus over here at church, but you're all in on deception at work. You're all in on the things of Christ around the people of Christ, while you're all in on gossip in your family. Can we be real today? See, the only way out of this frustration fiasco is for you to decide. Now, you know this about your life. Life is all about decisions. It's about decisions. You make 35,000 micro decisions every single day. And some of you still decide that you are going to drive slow in the fast lane. May God rest your soul. Making decisions really is a full-time job. 35,000 every single day. No wonder you're tired. You gotta decide, who am I voting for? Where am I sending my kids to school? Where am I gonna go to college? What's my major gonna be? What's my major gonna switch to? What's my major gonna switch to again? Because you know you're switching your major at least 3 times. Am I gonna swipe left or swipe right? What am I gonna eat for lunch today? Some of y'all are thinking right now, Cracker Barrel or Cheddar's? Let me throw in a third one, Chipotle, okay? Should I take a nap or should I go to the gym? Should I watch Monday Night Football or should I watch The Bachelor? Are you tired yet? Life is about decisions. But it's not just about the occasional big decisions. You know, we think all the time our life is about the big honking decisions. Now, they're important, but life is more about the micro decisions that you make daily as compared to the occasional decisions that you make every once in a while. Some of you might think that you're indecisive, but being indecision is actually a decision. And if that's not enough for you to get your attention, remember, your decisions are not just about you. Your decisions actually impact other people. They're about those that are around you. Those closest to you will be impacted by your decisions. They can make events for somebody else, good or bad, but never neutral. For example, Sarah and I, when we moved here to Knoxville to start this church in March of 2020, it sent a ripple effect. It rippled into my children's lives. My children are now being raised somewhere different than their mom or their dad were raised. That decision that we made to move to Knoxville has impacted some of your lives and has a ripple in your life as well. Your decisions don't just affect you, they affect those around you. They bleed on others. Now, I promise we're going somewhere. Here's the problem. Most American Christians live their entire Christian life in limbo. In the land between the narrow path of Jesus and the wide path of culture. Picking and choosing things that they want from each of those and never finding satisfaction from either of them. Getting this strange Frankenstein combination of Christ and culture. But let me just remind you today, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, will not share the throne of your heart. He's not going to share it with anything else. No other idol can come before him. No other thing can come before him. No other relationship can come before him. He is holy and he wants the throne of your heart. Let me say it a different way for you. Jesus is either Lord of all or he's not Lord at all. Lord of all or not at all. And here's the kicker. You decide. So here's what I've titled my sermon today, okay? And I want to refer to this as Lordship, Limbo. Lordship, Limbo. Now, some of you might be asking, well, Austin, what is lordship? What is lordship? Lordship is simply answering the question, who is your king? Who is your king? Who rules and reigns in your life? Who do you think about when you are making a decision? Because whatever you think about when you're making a decision is probably your Lord. A.W. Tozer, the great theologian, he said it this way: what you think about when you think about God is the most important thing about you. So let me ask you a question, church. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about when you make a decision? See, I believe today there are 4 steps in decision that will actually showcase your current Lord. And I believe that these 4 steps have the power to change your Lord from what it is today over to the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. Okay, so I want you to write this down, take notes, tap the seat in front of you to access the notes on your device, and we're gonna get into it. Number 1, write this down. You've got to decide your direction. Decide your direction. In Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says to seek and you will find, to ask and you will get an answer, to knock and the door will be open for you. Seek and you will find. And my question is, what are you seeking after? What I think Jesus is really getting at here, he's not talking about hide and seek. What he's really getting at is he's getting at your direction. Which way are you going? For example, I don't know about y'all, but every time I get out my phone and I try to use Apple Maps, I get lost. Anybody else hate Apple Maps? I hate it. In fact, Apple Maps is so wrong. We had to get a special sign for all of you crazy people that use Apple Maps to let you know you're on the right road. Apple Maps, I promise, I get lost more on Apple Maps than I ever actually find the correct destination. And if you're honest today, a lot of people in the building have spiritually been using Apple Maps. Where you find yourself, you're lost, you've gone all kinds of ways, but you are still in limbo. And may I just simply ask you today, what direction are you going? Are you going God's way or are you going your way? Are you seeking after the things of God? Seek first his righteousness and his kingdom, or are you seeking after the things of the culture? And I believe today, really, if we're really honest with each other, we all are seeking after things that are not Jesus. None of us has arrived, me included. We're gonna be trying to fight this battle until the day we meet King Jesus in heaven. We're all idolizing something. And I just wonder if you've stopped long enough to ask what it is for you. Let me illustrate it this way. A lot of us, we come to these moments in our life where we want to climb certain ladders. And we think, if I can get to the top, then I'll be happy. If I can get enough, then I'll be happy. And so for some of us, you think, man, you know what? If I could just have enough money, then I would be good. Man, I'm telling you, if my Regions account had a couple extra zeros, praise the Lord, I'd be good. You find out, like all of us do, that more money, more problems. So you move on, you say, well, you know what, money doesn't quite do it, but maybe if I could just get pleasures, the pleasures of this world, maybe if I could find the right combination of drugs, or find the right combination of sex or pornography or whatever the pleasure is for you. I got to find out what that thing is. And if I could get there, then I would be good enough. Then you move on, you think, some of you, this is me too, success. Man, if I could just be successful in my business, if I could be successful in my life, if I could get the recognition I think I deserve, you know what would happen? Then all of my insecurities would dissolve. They don't. Some people, they go a little bit higher. They say, you know what? I just need to be a good person. I need people to see me as a good person. And if they see me as a good person, having done all the right things, then I will be encouraged in my life. And the reality is that you get to the top and it's never quite what you expected. You can win at all the things that culture tries to force feed you. You can win at all the things that culture says is going to make you happy, and you can still end up frustrated in limbo because your Lord is something that doesn't deserve the throne of your heart. And what's even more tragic is for you, listen to me, especially men, listen to me. It's so tragic for a man to reach the epitome of what he thinks a man is, to reach the top of the ladder, to be successful, to have the family, to have the cars, to have the wife, to have all the things that he thinks that culture says will make him a real man, and to realize at the end of your life that you succeeded, but you succeeded in the wrong things. To climb the ladder and realize it was leaned up against the wrong wall. You got to decide your direction. See, your direction is built on decisions, and those decisions are taking you to a destination. That's why number 2, you got to decide your destination. Matthew chapter 7, Jesus goes on, he talks about a tree and its fruit, and he says that you will be known by your fruit. See, fruit is a result, right? Fruit is a byproduct of a seed. It's really, you could say, the destination. You get to decide your fruit based on your root. What is your root? What have you planted in your life? What you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. And listen to me, especially if you're a teenager or you're in your 20s, what you are planting today is going to show up in your life in your 30s and 40s. Any 30 and 40-year-olds can attest to that. Whether you go to the gym at 22 will determine how you feel at 38. What you plant today will determine tomorrow. It will show up in your destinations. Your decisions are creating directions that lead to destinations that ultimately, watch this, become your destiny. That's why you have to decide your destiny. You might think, well, Austin, I don't know if I can decide my destiny? Well, Jesus says, after he talked about narrow and wide gates, Jesus says that you should build your life on the solid foundation. He said you can build your life on the rock, on a solid, firm foundation, or you can build your life on the shifting sand, a constantly moving foundation. And what your foundation is built on will determine ultimately what your destiny is. What's your foundation? I graduated college about a decade ago, before some of you were born, okay? And culture at that time was incredibly different than it is today. In fact, the only thing that might be the same today as it was in 2014 and 15 is the Dallas Cowboys are bound to choke in the playoffs, if they even make it. Am I right, Tyler? If they make it. Culture is constantly changing. It's a moving target. So when Jesus compares culture to sand, it really is like sand. It moves in and out. It goes to and fro. You cannot build on that. I know it's a new shiny thing. I know it feels good. I know you think it'll satisfy you in the moment, but deep down, you know it's just like the last thing that you tried. It'll work for a little bit, but it's not going to work forever. It will eventually lose its edge. That you'll play in the sandbox for a little while, but eventually you're gonna have to find a new sandbox. Because you can't build on sand. You can't stay there long term. You can rent for a while, but you can't live there. So will you decide to build your foundation on rock or on sand? Because what you are building on will determine more than you can possibly imagine. It will ultimately determine your destiny, which is why it is so important. Number 4, write this down, that you decide sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later. Joshua, the new leader of the people of Israel after Moses dies, Joshua says this in Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15, choose for yourself this day whom you will serve. He goes on to say, as for me and my house, we're gonna serve the Lord. You have to choose for yourself this day, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. I'm talking about today. The sooner you decide, the better. Why? Because time is a magnifying glass on your decisions, and it will compound on you before you can even turn around and see what's happened, for better or for worse, but never neutral. Your decisions compound on you, and the longer you walk in that direction, toward that decision, toward that destination, creating that destiny, the harder it becomes to actually change. I was thinking about this week, and I remember back when I was in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I had a very, very, very intense speech impediment. And I couldn't talk. It was pretty bad. And I blame my mom, but that's neither here nor there, okay? And people would ask me, hey, what's your name? And I would look back at them with my big, thick glasses on and my 4'9", 160-pound frame, and I would look at them and say, my name is Atenway Toman from Mauen, Tennessee. I love cookies and chicken nuggets. Your boy could say nuggets good. Come on. I was looking like a nugget, I'm telling you. And my dad, he went to this conference, and when he got to this conference, I was probably 8, 9, 10 at the time, and my dad went to this conference, and one of the speakers at the conference, my dad came back and said he spoke with the same exact speech impediment that Austin speaks with. My dad came back and he said, we're gonna find that boy a speech therapist immediately. He found me one because, watch this, while it was cute for a kid, it wasn't cute for an adult. My family thought it was cute for me at the time, but it wasn't gonna be cute 30 or 40 years later. And the longer I waited to fix the problem, the harder it would become to actually fix the problem. Listen to me, church. Sin going unaddressed does not get better, it gets worse. And I wonder how much you are missing out on God's best for you, God's heart for you, God's best in your life because you are waiting for a better time to start. Today is the best time to start. There is no better time to start because the further up the ladder you get, the harder the fall is going to be. The further down the road you get, the harder it's gonna be for you to turn yourself around. And I don't need to give you a laundry list of examples because every single person in here today has something in your life that you know, I've been climbing that ladder, I've been going down that path, and it is not God's best for me. It might be the early stages right now, but I'm telling you, unaddressed sin gets worse, not better. If you don't turn around today, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord today. You decide. You decide. Not tomorrow, today. A few years ago, I did an illustration, and I wanna bring it back, okay? Because our church is so much bigger than it was a few years ago, and many of you weren't here for this, okay? And here's the reality, is that a lot of us, we are trying to decide, somebody say decide. We're trying to decide between godly things and culture things, Christ things and culture things, godly things and worldly things, spirit things and flesh things. And here's the reality, is for many of you, you walked in here today straddling the line. You walked in here today thinking, you know what, I can do both. And you know what? You can for a little while. You really can. You can follow Jesus on Sunday and follow you on Monday. You can do it. You can follow Jesus at church and follow culture at work. You can follow Jesus here. Last time I had on skinny jeans doing this. And then try to follow the world there. You can follow, Joey, I'm gonna do it. Oh, your boy's cramping. You know what happens though? At some point you start feeling stretched. You start feeling overwhelmed. And I've seen it time and time again, church. I'm gonna tell you, I've seen it time and time again. What happens is you come to a point like this where you are mixing Christ and culture. You're creating this Frankenstein moment. And what's happening for many people is you look back at God and say, God, you must not be good. For some of you, you looked at a former pastor or you looked at a church and said, they don't care about me. And you think Jesus has been unfaithful to me, but may I submit to you that Jesus was not unfaithful, you were just not committed. No wonder you feel torn between two worlds. You are. And I'm gonna tell you, if you wanna be a Jesus person, the best thing that you can do in your life, the best thing is to just go all in. In fact, choose you this day who you will serve, whether it be Jesus or yourself. Who will you serve? Will you serve Jesus? Will you serve yourself? Are you gonna continue to create this Frankenstein kind of combination that's not going to get you where you want to go? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Who will you serve this day? As for me and my house, we're gonna serve the Lord. We're gonna decide to move in the direction of God down the narrow path. We're going to decide to go in the destination of what Jesus wants us to do in producing good fruit. We're going to decide our destiny is built on a foundation of Jesus Christ, and we are not going to wait. We're going to decide today. Every head bowed.